Okay, so I have to tell you guys about my crazy night in Miami and everything that unfolded after. This is a long one, so you're gonna have to bear with me. So last Friday, last weekend, I had nothing to do, no plans, and I was feeling kind of moody about a few different things. I was like, do I wanna go out? Not really. Okay, I'll just go out for like one drink for the sake of like being out and trying to be social. And in my experience, sometimes when you go out by yourself, you can never predict what will, like sometimes something cool will happen that you could have never predicted. Like you meet somebody interesting or whatever. So I was like, let me just go. So I go out and it was packed because here in Miami, it's now like spring break time, which I guess I didn't predict. And I've never seen that bar that packed. There was a line outside, I had to wait. That's never happened before. So I get in and there's so many people that I was like, maybe I should stick around for longer than one drink because it's like popping right now. So I conversed with someone and then he like disappeared, which is fine. And then I had another drink and I'm walking around the bar and this guy stops me and we start talking and he's there with his friend, this pretty female friend, and come to find out he's also part Turkish and he speaks Turkish and I'm half Turkish and I speak Turkish. So it was like a nice little connection and we briefly spoke in Turkish and it's like, oh, it's always nice to meet somebody from your culture, whatever. And then the girl that he's with, she just looked super bored and I'm like, you must hate it here because like, you know, you don't really receive any attention here, like it's not your audience. And she was like, actually, as a trans woman, I feel right at home here. And I was like, oh my God, like I had no idea. And it's still cool to me, like I'm still learning about, you know, obviously my experience is the gay boys experience, but you meet other people as you get older and you realize that there's all these other experiences that you're not that familiar with. And I think a lot of us, we're so used to the image of trans being like noticeably trans that we don't realize there's people walking around us all the time who we would never suspect anything, but they have that same story of growing up, you know, feeling like they were in the wrong body and going through the transition. So she was a trans woman who I otherwise would have never even thought was part of the LGBT umbrella. So we're talking, the three of us, and then the bar starts kicking everybody out because they're closing down at midnight here in Miami because of COVID. Despite COVID, you know, there's all these people inside, but they're still like, oh, okay, at midnight we have to shut things down. So we start walking out, and as we're walking out, I recognize this boy from months ago that I saw on Tinder who's also Turkish and who I really had wanted to meet because he was cute and he was Turkish and he's, you know, in the area. And again, for me, there's like it's a cultural thing. You're like, oh, it's somebody who has a similar background. Like I would love to connect. He had never, this was on Tinder, I had swiped right, he never swiped right, so we never matched. But I had DM'd him like in that moment on Instagram to be like, you know, I'm proactive, let me cut through the bullshit. You know, if he's interested in connecting, even as a friend, it would be great to have a friend with a similar background. Never heard from him, okay? But I see him, and at this point I was like a little rowdy because I had a few drinks and I was like, you're also Turkish, we're Turkish. I was just being friendly. And then the guy with the female friend, they were like, oh, we need to go to the bathroom before they close. So they run off to the bathroom and I'm talking to the new Turkish boy as we're walking out. Now, let me just bear with me. We're gonna do a flashback. Now, I had seen him on Tinder, right? But also, like a month ago, I went to my local CVS and I was in line, you know, with my mask on. Everybody has a mask on at CVS. I was purchasing something and I heard someone ask a CVS employee for something with a thick Turkish, or what I thought was a thick Turkish accent. I said, are you Turkish? And the guy who also had a mask on was like, yeah, how'd you know? And I was like, I can hear it in your accent. And I asked him where he was from in Turkish. And he was like, oh, I live here. I live on, you know, XYZ street. And I was like, no way. I live on, you know, 2 blocks from you. And before we could keep talking, the CVS employee came back to fetch him to be like, hey, I have the product you want, like, come with me. And so then that, you know, that was it. And he was like, nice meeting you. I was like, nice meeting you. And I was bummed because I was like, I would have been so nice to connect with the fellow. And he was friendly, like a nice Turkish person, especially in the neighborhood. And in my mind, I thought he was so friendly that, like, for all I know, living in South Beach, there's a good chance that he's a fellow gay boy. So me being kind of, I don't know, pathetic. I don't know, maybe not pathetic. Me being sappy. I did something I've never done before, but my old roommate in New York City had done this and it had worked. I went on Craigslist and I went on Missed Connections and I said, hey, I'm the, Turkish boy from CVS. Hit me up if it's you, like we should connect. Because I don't know, it's funny how you just have those instincts. I had this doubt that like, just maybe he's a fellow gay boy and we could connect. So misconnections, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's like this section on Craigslist where, if you make eye contact with somebody on the street or like you have a misconnection, people will post on there. And like I said, I had a roommate in New York City who actually like went on a date with a guy who they both had the same thought and went on misconnections. So of course I got responses from people who clearly were not the Turkish boy just based on the way they were communicating, and I was like, F off. Like one guy was like, oh, let's see if I'm the person you're talking about, send over pics. And I'm like, okay, the person who I met that's not the first thing that they would say. So anyway, weeks later, I'm at this gay bar, right? And I go, you're also Turkish. We're also Turkish. I remember you from Tinder. And he goes, you're the boy from CVS. And I'm like, oh, it's the same guy. And I had no idea because at CVS, we all had masks on. But he remembered that I was the same guy that I was the CVS kid. And I was like, how did you remember? And he was like, I just remember your eyes. So I'm blown away because of course I'm not gonna tell him like, I searched for you on Craigslist. So we're exiting, walking out, and I'm just excited that I met like a fellow Turkish person in the neighborhood. And we have a nice little dialogue on the street corner where they just like kicked all the gays out. And he goes, hey, I'm having a party tomorrow, you should come over. He was like, don't bring anybody because I'm at capacity with COVID, but come through. So we exchanged numbers, and in my head, I'm like, the universe is so fucking weird. Like, this is the boy who I so wanted to meet from Tinder, who I DM'd, who I didn't hear back from. Then we bump into CVS not knowing, like me not realizing it's him. And now, and I posted on fucking Craigslist, and I'm going to his house the next day. Like what a weird series of events that you can't predict, right? Like crazy moment. So now the other Turkish guy and his female friend, they're back from the bathroom and they're like, all right, we're gonna migrate to this other place. And I'm like, what do you mean? Isn't everything closed at midnight in Miami because of COVID? They're like, no. We're gonna figure this out. So I start walking off with them, these people who I just met that night. And then I would say about 20 minutes after I'd met the other Turkish person who had invited me to his home the next day for a house party, I text him to be like, really nice meeting you. Like, what a funny coincidence. Have a good night, whatever. And I don't hear back from him the rest of the night, which kind of made me feel a certain way. I was like, that's kind of weird, right? Like, wouldn't you just respond in the moment, say nice meeting you? And then, me being insecure, I was like, oh, maybe I was just too like loud for him because I was kind of rowdy. I was a little drunk, too chatty. Maybe he's like, oh God, why did I invite this person? Let me just not respond. So I thought that was kind of unusual, but here I am going off with these two other people that I met. We go to this rooftop lounge, and they pick up these other friends that they have there. And then we migrated throughout the night. We just kept going to different places. I don't know why these places were still open because I thought everything closed at midnight in Miami. But after that, we went to the female friend that I had met at the bar. She's like, oh, I have a friend who's throwing a house party in Brickell. Brickell is like the urban part, the city part of Miami. So we go there and it's like a fucking penthouse, sick view, crazy view, huge apartment, multi-bedroom, huge living room space. And there's all these people just hanging out. What was weird was the guy who was hosting it was kind of older than everybody else and chunky. And I got the vibe that he's that guy who like now is very successful professionally and financially, and so he's like buying his social life that he never had. Obviously I didn't say this out loud. That was the vibe that I got because the people who were there were very young. Like some of them I was like, they can't be older than 25. So anyway, we hang out at this place, free booze, crazy view, like meeting new people. And then it's time to go again. Like the group that I'm with has decided it's time to bounce. And the guy who's hosting the party is like, wait, before you leave, sign my guest book, which I thought was dorky, but also adorable. So he has this guest book, because I guess he throws these parties a lot, and he likes when people sign and put their phone number in so that he can invite them the next time. So again, that kind of confirmed the suspicion that I had that he's just like lonely and wants friends. So I signed the guest book because I'm like, why not? Like, I want to come back here. And then we migrate again to a place that ended up being closed. Remember, I'm with these like strangers that I met that night. We're in an Uber, like 5 or 6 of us, going from place to place. Then we end up at like a warehouse in the middle of nowhere where some big DJs playing that I don't fucking care about. There was drama at the door because it was expensive, and the people that I was with, I guess, are very into this scene. They're like, no, like we know the guy, like we're not paying full price. It was a whole drama, but we found a way to get in. By the way, this whole time, I'm not paying for anything. Like Like, I'm not paying for drinks at any of these places. They paid for me to get in. We go straight to VIP. And by the way, like, who fucking cares about VIP in this warehouse? Like, you can't hear anything. You're just there with a bunch of other people who are also drunk, presumably on certain drugs. And then at some point it was like 3 a.m. and 3 of us had to go back to South Beach. So we're like, let's hop in an Uber and go home. So I had this crazy night, and it's funny because it kind of reminded me of my nights in New York City. Not that that happened every time I went out in New York, but that has never happened to me here in Miami. That's something, that spontaneity is something that would happen here and there in New York City, where you just meet people and it takes you on a journey through the night that you could have never predicted or planned out. Between that and then the Turkish boy I met, I was like, this is so neat, right? But then I came home, I sent a like nice meeting you text to every person I exchanged numbers with. And the next morning I felt so like lonely and moody. And I think part of that was just drinking so much and, you know, the hangover part of it. But I thought back about the night and I was like, it was also superficial. Like, the people I hung out with, we just kept jumping from situation to situation. And it's like, what's the point? Like, it's such a limited dose of everything. And even interacting with them, the interactions felt so hollow to me. Like, yes, we exchanged numbers. Yes, they were friendly. Yes, they paid for me, a new person, which was very generous of them to do. But I heard from almost none of them the next day after sending that nice meeting you text. And I got this feeling that, like, this is what they do. They just go out, they want to be seen, they want to go to the VIP section, but what's the point? Like, what's the point? Even if you see those people all the time, are you really connected to those people? So the next day I was feeling all moody and I had nothing to do all day, but I thought, oh, well, tonight I'm supposed to go to that Turkish person's house, right? But he still hadn't responded to my nice meeting you text. And I was like, wow, like, last night was really just a waste of time. Like, I should just enjoy it for what it was, but I felt, especially after that friend dumped me, for those of you who saw that video, I just felt very insecure. Like, do I not know how to make new friends? Like, is it me? Is it them? And then finally that Turkish boy texted me in the middle of the afternoon and he was like, oh yeah, great meeting you too. Here's my address, see you tonight. And I was like, all right, cool. I have this thing to look forward to tonight. Saturday night, I go to this boy's house, which is 2 blocks away from me. And again, it was bittersweet. Like, I met all these people, and I will say his friends were generally very friendly, inquisitive. Honestly, I spoke to his friends more than I did to him, to the Turkish boy. And it was strange, but it's like, I got this energy from the Turkish boy, almost like he didn't want to talk to me at his own home, at his own party. And then I thought, well, he's hosting. So, you know, when you're hosting, you just want to really have a good time. You want to make sure the music's set and this and this. And maybe he was just distracted, but he would talk to some of his friends there at length. And I just thought it was unsavory that, like, here I am, the only person there who doesn't know anybody. He's my only connection. If it was me, I would at least spend some time conversing with this new person, make introductions. And he didn't do any of that, and I thought it was kind of odd. Whenever I would talk to him at the party, it would be for like 15 seconds, and then he'd go off and do something else. So I met nice people, but like, I just didn't click all the way with anybody. Again, I felt like it was a crop of people who, not everybody, but a lot of them, I just felt were more superficial. For example, a few of them kept live streaming during this party, like nonstop, like, here I am dancing, da 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 da. And I just thought it was kind of pathetic. Like, can't you just enjoy the moment and be with your friends and meet these new people? Like, why do you need an audience watching you virtually? So again, that night I went home feeling like desolate, you know, like, here I am, I met all these people, but what's the point? Am I even gonna see any of these people again? Again, I sent nice meeting you texts. A few of them responded the next day, but, you know, it was just like casual pleasantry, small talk of like, yeah, nice meeting you. Yeah, definitely will let you know next time I'm in Miami, whatever. And the Turkish boy, I didn't hear from him after I said, nice meeting you. We should grab like a drink or coffee in the neighborhood sometime. So days passed, and as I predicted, it didn't go anywhere with any of these people that I met. Like, I didn't hang out with them again. We didn't make plans to see each other again. And I thought, you know what? This Turkish boy lives 2 blocks from me. We're both gay, we're both Turkish. I don't have many friends here at all, being newish to Miami. I have to be the one to be really proactive and just like push one more time. And then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I reached out later that week to say, hey, do you want to get coffee this weekend? And I never heard back. So my instincts were, accurate, that there was something about this guy that like he just didn't want to connect. Maybe he just invited me because he wanted like a crowd at his event. But I was talking to a friend about this and she was like, some people can't go deeper. Like they don't want to have one-on-one friendships. They want to be in a group setting and have fun in a group, but that's it. Or they want party friends. And it's funny because I met his ex there at his house, not knowing it was his ex at first, but he was kind of spilling the tea with me saying, oh yeah, we just separated. We decided it was better to be friends. You know, I just think we're too different. I'm old fashioned. He's more of a party boy. And I thought it was very interesting that I'm a total stranger and he was sharing that nugget of information. Because to me, that seems like something that's very private. Like he wasn't saying it in a judgmental way, but I could read between the lines. And so again, it's about trusting your instincts, right? Like I got a kind of strange vibe. It took him forever to end up inviting me to his house. And it reminded me of what my brother told me about that friend who dumped me. If you guys remember that video, my brother had said, you shouldn't even be seeking the friendship of people like this, because if they can't be emotionally mature with you and communicate what they're looking for, what they're not looking for, if they can't just be honest, like, is that really a friend that you want in your life at this point? God, they're doing yard work outside. You guys can probably hear that. I'm not restarting this video though. So I applied that advice to this new situation with this Turkish boy, and I thought like, if someone lives 2 blocks from me, is also gay, also comes from the same background, and they have no desire to build an easy sort of like neighborhood friendship, that's not the kind of person I probably want to get to know, right? Because to me, it seems like there would be so many benefits to that. Like just to have somebody you know in the neighborhood, to go to the local gay bar with, or the local coffee shop, or even to like water your plants if you're out of town or something. If someone can't even respond to express that they're not interested in that kind of dynamic or that kind of friendship, that probably tells me everything I need to know, right? But it is still disheartening, right? That I feel like I keep meeting people here with these superficial values. And I also understand that sometimes people have their friendship, their friend group, and they don't really want to invite anybody else into it. Like they're not really eager to expand their network, and I guess that's somebody's choice. But at the same time, I find it weird to invite somebody to your home and then not want to connect further. Because in my mind, that's really intimate. Like to invite somebody to your home, I would meet somebody for coffee first, and then that would help me determine whether it's someone I feel comfortable having in my home. But I guess to me, it just was a bizarre thing to have me in his home, but then not want to connect beyond that. So that was my crazy weekend in Miami. I guess the lesson for me is, if I'm down to have these like crazy nights, spontaneous nights where you don't know what's going to happen and you hop from place to place, you have to just enjoy it for what it is in that moment and recognize that you're not going to click with everybody the way that you would like to. And friendship at the end of the day has to be organic. Like you can't force anything anyway. And it goes back to what my brother was saying, like it will be a friendship if both people actually belong as friends. But otherwise, like why am I seeking the friendship of people who aren't even wanting to meet me halfway? And of course I know why, and that's insecurity. Like being here in Miami, I want to know people, I want to have a network, but I have to remember that not everybody is of the same quality. Thanks for watching, guys.